Hey Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, UK basketball's exhibition schedule is out. We'll talk about that and the returning roster, plus a preview of the Belmont, and one county coroner has stopped transporting bodies. All that and more next on Hey Kentucky. Welcome everybody to Hey Kentucky, presented by Wendy's. I'm Mary Jo Perino, in for Matt Jones. Perrin Johnson is my co-host tonight. It's Friday. Feeling good?
Yes, I'm happy it's Friday. Hopefully this rain holds off.
It's not. It's already raining. It's
just
not
a little.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit. I'm okay. I mean, not too much. Not too much rain. Not too much rain.
All right. Well, let's begin by looking ahead to the fall, as the UK basketball preseason schedule has been released. Big Blue Madness will take place Friday, October 11th on the SEC network, and the blue-white game is a week later. The Cats then host NAIA champion Georgetown College on Sunday, October 27th, and Kentucky State on Friday, November 1st. Kentucky has played both of these in-state opponents before. The Cats are 2-0 in exhibition games against Georgetown, and they beat KSU in their lone exhibition meeting in 2015 and once in the regular season in 2001. And here's a look at the first part of that regular season, including a matchup with Michigan State in the Champions Classic and Utah and Ohio State out in Las Vegas. And we kind of know what the SEC schedule is going to look like. What do you think about the schedule and the exhibition games? I do love playing in-state teams.
Yeah, I think it's great. You know, Georgetown just won the NAIA championship. That's good. Obviously it's exposure for that program as well. Kentucky State as well. I would like to see them play Bellarmine. She'll come down and play Scotty Davenport. Can we work that out with Coach Cal? Can you make that happen? But
Bellarmine's always maybe just a little too good.
Possibly, possibly. I understand that fully. But when you look at the schedule, they play Michigan State. Michigan State's a great team. Obviously, preseason #1 in some people's polls. That's going to be a great test early for this team. They have an experienced backcourt with the Maxey kid coming in, obviously. I think a lot of things will be great for them, and they'll be battle tested early, and you'll find out a lot about this team very early.
That's what I love about the Champions Classic, because we're either going to play Duke, Kansas, or Michigan State in that. It's been the first game the last couple of years, the second game one other year, but those are always going to be top 10 teams.
Yes.
If not top 5. And, I think last year's team learned a lot from that drubbing at the hands of Duke. And there's been a lot of great learning experience come out of that Champions Classic, I think.
No, it's a great way to find out what you have early. Obviously Zion was a generational talent. You're not going to see a guy that's 6'7", 285 pounds running down court all the time.
Probably not.
No, so for me, I'm just really happy with the fact that from a basketball standpoint, watching Kentucky play a team like that early, you get a lot of experience. You're going to find out what you have early in some areas and what you need to work on. With the Brooks kid coming in as well, and a lot of guys coming back, the Sestina kid, the transfer from Bucknell, they have a lot of great pieces on this team. So I'm really interested to see how this plays in their hands early. But who doesn't like a trip to New York City? And 2 trips to Las Vegas. Can we talk about 2 trips to Las Vegas?
Yes. No, I definitely want to go to Vegas. All right. You mentioned the roster. So since Coach Cal took over 10 years ago, experience is a tricky term. Freshmen flocking to the league after one season. Sophomores become veterans. Juniors become restless. And seniors, well, they're practically unheard of. With 4 players returning from last year's Elite 8 squad, here's a look at how this Kentucky team compares to the rest. If you measure a team's experience in terms of returning minutes and production. The 2012 National Championship team, which paired elite freshmen with core veterans, rounds out the top 3. The current team comes in 6th with 37% of its minutes and 27% of its scoring coming back. Earlier this week, Cal talked about his excitement for those familiar faces.
The last time we had 4 players back that were quality players like that, I believe it was 14, 15. Look, I enjoy coaching guys 2 and 3 and 4. You in this, what I do, you just want people when they leave that they're prepared and they're ready for success. That's the whole thing.
Well, he was right about the 14-15 class being the most quote-unquote experienced, and that team went to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. So this is, you do need some experience, but they also have to be good experienced players.
Yeah, so when you look at this roster, Ashton Hagans was a kid that was up for the Defensive Player of the Year award nationally.
Yeah.
That's a major deal for you right there in the half. Maxey is a great player as well. I think he's going to be on some people's list as honorable mention preseason All-American. He's that talented. You throw in the Keon Brooks kid as well and the grad transfer from Bucknell and the Sestina kid. You have a solid rotation. Who's going to fit in at center yet? We don't know. Is it going to be E.J. Montgomery? Is it going to be Nick Richards? We don't know. Depends on how much work they put in this summer. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, but when you have a veteran leader at point guard, you're not used to having a sophomore point guard at Kentucky. I think it's going to be a great addition to this roster, and they'll be really poised because he knows what to expect.
It makes me think when you say sophomore point guard at Kentucky, could anyone have used that more than Marcus Teague?
Yes. No, it's funny you say that because his brother, Jeff Teague, who's in the NBA, told him to come back to school. He did not want to come back to school, and school's not for everybody. He probably didn't just want to do any more schoolwork. But at the same time, if he came back to school, his career might even be different right now than what it is. Yeah, so I wish he would have done that, but to each his own.
Yep, Hagen's going to have a breakout year, though, I really think. All right, the third leg of horse racing's Triple Crown will be held this weekend, rounding out what has turned out to be a really wild month thanks to a controversial finish in the Kentucky Derby. War of Will is attempting to follow up his victory in the Preakness. Of course, if the colt wins at Belmont Stakes tomorrow, many will ask if he could have been Thoroughbred Racing's 14th Triple Crown champion had he not been nearly knocked off his feet at Churchill Downs. You may recall that maximum security drifted into his path, causing War of Will's jockey to check his mount sharply and avoid causing a multi-horse accident, and ending with maximum security's disqualification. Perrin, what do you make of this whole Triple Crown season?
It doesn't even seem like it's existing. I'm disappointed. I'm shocked because I feel like the Kentucky Derby took the wind out of everybody's sails.
Absolutely.
And then the Belmont is always a great race because it's the longest one. So you always look forward to that. But now I'm trying to sit back and say to myself, what is the storyline here? War of Will, okay, if he wins, great. But I'm trying to find an interest at heart, and I don't really have one right now. I'm kind of heartbroken about the Triple Crown this year.
So War of Will is going to be the only horse that is run in all three legs, right? So the Preakness had something taken out of it when Country House and Maximum Security didn't run. And so I think War of Will is really the only horse of interest for me. The only one I'd really like to see win. Otherwise,
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm kind of disappointed in the NBA that they didn't schedule a game during the weekend because there's nothing really else going on.
That's why we're going to end up watching the Belmont. All right, the Kentucky native who caused a social media firestorm by posing with a dead giraffe is back in the headlines. Tess Talley first came into the news last summer when her photos with the rare black giraffe she had just killed during a hunt in South Africa sparked outrage. The pictures, which were actually shot the year before, emerged after they were posted on Twitter by a South Africa-based website. Now Talley has gone on the CBS This Morning show to talk about how the backlash has made her life hard, including death threats and attempts to get her fired. But Talley also defended her actions, saying she was on a conservation hunt that preserves wildlife by managing herds. Perrin, I get that those exist, but isn't this a rare black giraffe? Like, I doubt they're trying to limit the herds of those, right? Maybe I could be wrong.
No, I don't. None of this makes any sense. But the thing about it is when people see things tangibly in front of them, they get more outraged. So this is why, even though these photos were a year old, we're seeing these now. But if something is rare, and it's hard, and it's not a lot of them left, why are you hunting that in the first place if you're part of a conservation group?
That doesn't make any sense.
I'm lost on that. And then if you really want to hunt, make it interesting. Hunt something that can kill you, and use a bow and arrow. Like go hunt a grizzly bear with a bow and arrow. Make it a game, because if you miss, we won't see you anymore. Do something like that, along those lines. But come on, a draft? Who kills a draft?
I know. They're the sweetest, right?
They're the best. I love them at the zoo in Louisville. I love them.
All right, now to an unusual story in Casey County, where the coroner there is refusing to transport dead bodies. Kurt Demrow says he uses his own SUV to perform his duties with all the necessary equipment, largely at his own expense, instead of providing a van. The county reimburses him about 40 cents per mile, which Demrow says is not nearly enough.
I do understand and I do agree that I am an elected official, and this is probably not the best light for me, but I feel like I'm standing up for what's right and for all the other coroners in Kentucky that might be in the same situation as me.
The judge executive says the practice of reimbursing coroners to transport bodies is how it's always been done in Casey County. Last year, the coroner drove less than 1,000 miles, so officials say it's not feasible to buy a vehicle. Under Kentucky law, the county must provide funds for transportation, but the coroner is only required to arrange the moving, not to do it himself. Perrin, how are these dead bodies going to get anywhere if he's not moving them? Because other regular people don't have the equipment in the back of their cars.
No, this is really bizarre for me because on one side you want to make it economical for the county, so the county can't purchase a vehicle. On the other side, you have a gentleman that's saying he's not being reimbursed enough for his vehicle. So there has to be some happy medium, maybe where they can find a used van somewhere to make this happen. But at the same time, if this is the way it's always been done, then maybe they need to find a way to give him more funds to transport the bodies, because you obviously can't purchase a vehicle for him to do his job that way. So I don't know how you make that work, but that's the only way it sounds like it's going to have to work in that situation.
The way it's always been done is not a reason for me ever to keep doing things the same way. I just don't buy it. All right, now to our weekly feature on Hey Kentucky, Take It to the Bank, brought to you by Kentucky Bank. The Speaker of the House says changes made by Governor Bevin to his pension plan do not improve the bill's chances of passing if Bevin decides to call a special session. David Osborne says the changes do not address the main concerns of lawmakers and that a special session may not happen at all. As we've been telling you, time is running out to come up with a bill before July 1st, when pension costs will explode for regional universities, local health departments, and other quasi-governmental agencies. And that's a headline you can take to the bank. Up next on Hey Kentucky, good week, bad week. We'll take a look at the winners and losers from the headlines. Stay with us.